Welcome to this episode of Raising Kellan Podcast, motivates by and educated raising kids with special needs. Remember, always get your toes that moment in. Bye, guys.
Hi everyone, this is your host Marsh Naidu, and today we have an awesome podcast lined up for you. Good morning to Madison, Balk, all the way over in Perth, Australia. Madison is owner and creator of Let's Yoga Perth. Good morning, Madison, or good evening.
Good morning, Marsh, and good evening from my side.
I'm so glad that you were able to join us. Madison is actually going to give us talk about Let's Yoga Perth, as well as give us some strategies for our series. We are actually doing a quarantine strategy series where we discuss different mindsets and different techniques to help us during this difficult time when a lot of us are self-quarantined or homebound. So I'm so grateful that Madison is able to join us this morning. Madison is owner and creator of Let's Yoga Perth. So Madison, give us a little bit background information about who you are.
Okay, so obviously my name's Madison and I am an occupational therapist working in the field of pediatrics, so children. I've previously had experience working in mental health hospitals, physical rehab hospitals, and then for the past 5 years now is purely focusing on children. Before that, I was just working in the disability field as a carer for children with brain injuries. And so I had about 10 years experience altogether in the disability field. And then around about 2 or 3 years ago, I completed my yoga instructor training and then decided to take that a bit further to then do yoga teaching for people or for children with developmental delays, disabilities, and then neurological conditions as well. So that was my, they call it adaptive yoga training.
So what actually is yoga?
So first of all, I thought I would say what yoga is not. I think all around the world and with social media, there's this idea that yoga it's for flexible people. It's for people that have strength. It's for that thin model that's wearing activewear and you see her on Instagram or Facebook. Yoga is not that. Yoga is for anyone that can breathe. So everyday people of all abilities. And what yoga means is uniting the mind, body, and heart through physical and a mental practice. And so the traditional meaning of yoga is stilling the fluctuations of the mind to arrive in a place of happiness and bliss. And yes, yoga originally comes from India as a religious and spiritual practice, but connecting to your breath, engaging in mindful movement can be done for anyone. And it is quite a Western practice at the moment. And the World Health Organization even says that yoga, or everyone should have a yoga practice because it improves their muscular cardiorespiratory fitness, their bone and functional health. It reduces and prevents mental health conditions like depression, anxiety, feelings of loneliness. And then it also just any feelings of exclusion that people might be feeling, because yoga is a community, and then we get that sense of being a part of something. For those living with chronic conditions and disability, yoga can help with acceptance, any grief that they're going through, any additional mental health conditions they might have, as well as just developing a sense of calmness, working on their strength, endurance, their physical well-being, which then as well improves confidence. And it's also nice just to be in, I guess, a part of your health goal for everyone. So you can see, Marsh, it's very Western. It's not just a practice that is done for certain religions.
I totally get that, Madison. So let me ask you this. What about your personal journey? When did you discover yoga? And more interesting to me is, when did you realize that this would be an awesome therapeutic activity that would benefit kids?
Yes. So I guess I had been I've done yoga for many years now, since I was mid-teens. And I did that for my mental well-being. And then when I became an occupational therapist, working across the many different fields that I had mentioned before, I did recognize that just feelings of loneliness, hopelessness, anxiety were very common, whether I was working in older adults, in the hospital, and with kids. And so I knew that yoga had improved my mental well-being, and that's when I really started to just apply some of my practices into their sessions. And so that might have been when a client had entered my therapy session, we just focus on our breath, become grounded, and then we actually go through and do the intervention that they were seeing me for. But then 2 years ago, so initially I had quite a strong practice. It was very fast, and it was quite, advanced. And then I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune conditions, which included arthritis, fatigue, and general muscle deconditioning. And so I wasn't able to engage in yoga. And because I was a part of that community and I did rely heavily on yoga for my mental well-being, I couldn't participate in that anymore, which meant all those feelings of, the benefits that you get from yoga, so the calmness, the confidence, the feelings of acceptance, all started to reduce, and I felt really excluded because I had lost my community that I was a part of. And it was when I saw an adaptive yoga instructor for myself who taught me how to have a soul-fulfilling yoga practice on days that I can't stand, on days where I can only sustain adequate endurance levels for 20 minutes, for days where my balance was off. And so that made me feel so empowered, and I felt like I could engage in such a meaningful task again. And this made me think that there aren't many instructors like this, especially for people that do have more severe chronic conditions or disabilities.
All right, guys, we're going to take a short break for now. So Madison has explained to us what yoga is and how it could potentially benefit us. It combines the way our mind and body can sync together using our breath. To learn more about adaptive yoga, check out Madison's website at letsyogaperth.com. All right, today is April the 30th and tomorrow is May Day. May Day is going to be our community day here in Dyersburg, Tennessee. And Steve Heron of Fix My PC 396 is going to put up the art wall on the raisingkellan.org website. That's raisingkellan.org, where you can come and look at some beautiful artwork that has been done by the kids as they interpreted Micah Foster's original design. Without further ado, here is Madison. Madison, we're going to start talking a little bit about what's going on currently and us being isolated at home. Are there any specific strategies that you can offer or advice that you can offer?
Definitely. So with children, to connect with the breath, I often try to use everyday breathing items that you have in the house. And so whether you've got bubbles, we can focus on breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. And a nice mindfulness activity that I also like is simply, if you're doing, you can do it sitting in your kitchen where you are, Marsh. You can do it in your backyard, going for a walk. Just recognizing 3 things you can see, 3 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel. And then even say, when you're eating at home, so when your child's feeding, seeing if they can sit there without any distractions and just talk about how the food tastes. That's mindfulness, is reducing distractions and zoning in. Another nice thing that I've been encouraging my families to do is at the end of the day, just think about or even tell each other 3 things that went well, 3 things that made you happy.
You mentioned a technique which I've been reading a lot about, Madison, and that includes mindfulness as well as using mindfulness to help with self-regulation. I'm going to kind of use your OT skills a little bit, if you don't mind explaining from that perspective.
Self-regulation is the ability to maintain, I guess, an optimal level of arousal or level of alertness. And so that might look like we're feeling calm, focused, where our body is still, our mind's still. And mindfulness, mindfulness strategies help because they take us out of that worrying mind. So if you imagine your brain and there's lots of thoughts racing around, by doing something as simple as focusing on your breath through bubbles or any of the strategies that I provided, we are getting out of the head and more into the heart. And it's neurologically calming the nervous system down, because those thoughts have such a big impact on the physical body. So we want to calm the mind to calm the body.
So it's no good just telling your child, calm down, is it? How does that work? Because with kids having tantrums, how do you provide the parent with strategies to help that child calm down?
Yes, you've definitely said that correct. I mean, even if someone tells me to calm down, I get even more angry because it's not that simple. Even getting a child to or if you say to your child, focus on your breath, it's still not that easy. You need to give them something to do, give them a mindfulness strategy to do, so then they can focus on that and get out of their body, or get out of their head and into their body, sorry. So I generally like to use physical props for our children with additional needs, to make it more like an activity that's fun, because we know for children, play is their most calming activity. And so all of these yoga strategies, whether it's movement or whether it's breathing, are done through play, because that calms their bodies and their minds.
Awesome, Madison. I've actually got my candle with me. And
Lovely.
I've got my candle with me because I think incorporating that sensory aspect is a very effective way to teach a child consciously how to breathe. On a subconscious level, we all can knock that out. I mean, it's just what we do. But to consciously engage the right mechanism, it's a whole different ball game. So I've got my candle, and I've got some peppermint, which is what helps me. So,
so Marsh, oh, lovely.
Here we go.
I have a visual for you, because not all children can just hear your instructions and follow them. Sometimes that they need that additional layer of communication, especially if they are feeling overwhelmed. Just hearing it isn't enough. And so by visually seeing it, it helps them get into that more conscious mind. And so what I would do, and what I'm going to do with you, Marsh, I'm going to verbally give you the instruction, but also point to what you're going to do. So we get the flower, we bring it to our nose, and we smell. We go to the candle, and we blow the candle. We breathe in the flower. Then we go and breathe out the candle. Yeah, and I'd just like to add, Marsh, is some children actually find it really difficult to have that controlled breath out. And so even just the process of slowly holding the flower to your nose, slowly bringing the candle to your mouth, that's mindfulness. And then gradually they'll learn to start using their breath to their movement.
Okay. Wow, Madison, I think we've covered all the topics, my darling.
Right.
I think the last one we were going to touch on is, during this time where you guys may not be able to necessarily engage with your patients or clients in a yoga studio, how are you all delivering or providing your services?
Yes, so it is quite different, obviously similar to many other services. Usually in workshops, it's a very hands-on approach from myself and my assistant. So we're guiding the child's body through the movement. It's very different online. So we're doing online Zoom sessions where the parent is with the child, and I guide the parent to help move the child through the postures, or if the child is able to do it independently, then they can. And so I offer group sessions. I'm doing individual sessions as well through online. And then I also have an online platform, so a resource library that anyone can access. It's at www.letsyogaperth.com. And there you'll see me offer simple sensory techniques for breathing, seated yoga sequences for those with reduced mobility. I go through yoga stories whilst offering different adaptations of how to do a posture. So it is quite different to how I would offer my services in person, but we have to make do, I guess.
I totally understand. And just a heads up for our listeners out there, as always, with the information we provide, always check with your doctor to make sure that you have clearance to perform any new activity.
Yes,
Madison, what a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out to educate us and empower us with this knowledge. And that resource you're talking about that's on your website, let'syogaperth.com, we are definitely going to check that out. I have already, and I also enjoyed the blog you wrote. So I would encourage our listeners to check that out. Any last words before we go, my dear?
I guess I would just really like to emphasize that if you can breathe, you can do yoga.
Thank you, Madison. Until we see each other again next time, all right?
Yes. Thank you, Marsh.
Well, guys, we have come to the end of another episode of Raising Kellan. Next week, we will talk to Misha Davidoff of a New Leaf Preschool in Nashville, Tennessee, and he is going to be talking about the benefit of being outdoors and the restorative power of nature. So until we see you all the next time, as always, remember, get to the top of your mountain. This is Marsh Naidu signing off.